Hello there, and thanks for staying with us here on the JoyNews channel. This is UpFront with me, Blessed Sogam, and I need to say that there's no doubt that Ghana is by far Africa's largest producer of gold. Well, this is the fact as we have it. As of 2024, the country's gold production reached a very soaring level, 4 million ounces, you see there on the screens, with export earnings, as we know, jumping significantly from 7.6 to over 11 billion Ghana cedis. And that's happening in spite of what you may describe as the earnings. Ghana is equally paying the price for it because even as you see the figures rising all the way to the top, we are equally having what many would say as that environmental damage which is going on in the small-scale sector, because the country is facing some widespread illegal gold mining, galamsey as we call it. And as President John Dramani Mahama's 100-day-old administration grapples to deal with the environmental scourge, the large-scale mining sector is also in focus because that sector is facing some landmark developments. First will be the government's decision to reject the gold fields among lease application, and also the second being the change to government's growth and sustainability levy, which is now attracting a caution from the Ghana Chamber of Mines that is now warning that investor confidence and also long-term sector growth may be impacted. So why is the Chamber of Mines concerned about all of this? Fortunate to have the acting Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, Ahmed Dassana Natongba, joining us in studio. And what a pleasure it is to have you here on UpFront. For many years, and you know about this, that's been the age-old conversation. We've been mining gold. Yeah, I mean, it's a symbol of our country's unique heritage. That gold, obviously, will be found if we're tracing back our history. Obviously, the Gold Coast we call ourselves. But has that paid off? Are we really seeing the effects and the dividends of gold as some precious mineral that could lead to development for any country, including exporters such as Ghana?
Yes, thank you. I think so, because if you look at Ghana's highest foreign exchange earner, it's gold. I mean, it overtakes cocoa and oil and those things. So definitely we are reaping a lot from the mining sector. In terms of employment, provide employment for thousands of people. And in terms of community development, mining companies support community development in all their activities. And as large-scale mines, they are more responsible. And I might say that large-scale mines produce just 60% of Ghana's total mineral revenue, but they pay 98% of all the taxes that you can get from there.
It's like you're praising your sector, isn't it?
No, I'm just putting the facts out
because
there.
The criticism that faces your sector is that you make all the big money and you go scot-free. We're not taxing you enough.
Wow. I think taxes, PAYE, you have royalties, you have all that. Yes. Look, mining companies, whatever they earn, they return about 75% back into this country.
Really?
Yes, because look, they need to pay the taxes, they pay the PAYE, they pay for goods and services into the country. So how will they manage to pay all that if they keep all the money offshore?
But what do you feel is accounting for that perception very often when it comes up? That, well, you're the big earners, you produce a lot. I mean, gold brings a lot of income. And so once they are foreign companies, maybe you're always, most of the time, taking your proceeds back. Is that a good perception to hold about, members of your chamber?
No, it's not. I mean, that perception has stayed on. Even, you see, if you take the history of mining in Ghana and the colonial days where we used to have mostly foreign companies running the mines, and then after independence, we thought that, look, they were cheating us and everything. So we went to nationalization. We nationalized all the minerals and gave it to Ghana State Gold Mines Corporation. You and I know what happened to that. So production went down so drastically until 1981, when the government decided to listen to IMF and then liberalize the sector. And that is where gold production came up. And now we produce about 5 million ounces of gold. So, I mean, that perception is there, but it's very far from the truth.
The sector is still crippled with a number of issues, isn't it? Illegal export of gold, and all the money laundering issues that are accompanied with it. How much of a challenge is it within the sector? And what's your own assessment of, the challenge within that sector?
Well, the sector, there are two parts of the sector. The 60% that belongs to large-scale mines and the 40% that comes from the small-scale mine. But large-scale mines cannot export the gold illegally. Everything has to go through assaying. It goes through the gold board, they assay it, they see the purity of what you do before you export. And when you export, the proceeds are returned. So there's no illegal export of gold from the large-scale mining sector. That I can guarantee you. So when somebody says that everything is going illegal, no, it's maybe from another sector, but you can't be a large-scale mine and be able to export illegally. Because even in the gold room, you have customs officials there monitoring whatever you are saying. And then when you send the gold out there to the refineries, all your returns come back and they are vetted and they are audited to make sure that what you exported is the same value of money that you are providing to the state. So you can't just take the gold out there and then miss
It's an easy pass all the time, isn't it? Because anytime the issue of illegal mining comes up, we're quick to offload it to the small-scale mining sector. If it's about revenue, it's to the small-scale sector. If it's about laundering, it's to the small-scale sector. Are they not becoming victims of a wider spread challenge that the mining sector is facing? No, it's not. I mean, I didn't attribute it to any sector. Right. I just said that for a large-scale mining, because of the auditing and the vetting in place, you can't do any illegal exports. I didn't talk about somebody else. Do you have figures to back how much of an immense blessing your chamber has been, and by extension, members of your chamber have been to this country in terms of taxes and perhaps jobs that you're creating? So I think I did mention that we are the highest taxpayer by far, and overtaking cocoa and other sectors. So you can imagine, I think for last year, for about 11 million or 11 billion cedis in taxes to the state alone. So that is outside all the social responsibilities that we pay. And even if you look at local content, mining companies in last year spent about $3.2 billion in this country on local purchases, local content. That is goods supplied by Ghanaian-owned companies and based in Ghana. So if you take this into perspective, this is even more than the IMF loan that we went for. But the government doesn't seem to be convinced about this, is it? Knowing that there are some national policies that are coming up, which gives us a sense of perhaps the posture the government might be taking. The Growth and Sustainability Act is out again. The expectation from your sector was that at least it should be winding up by now. But government is now extending it to 2028, which means 3% more for the next 4 or 5 years. Yes. How more are you willing to bear as a chamber on that? That's a good question. You know, every time government needs money, it goes to the large-scale mine sector because they are easy targets. Everyone knows their books. Everyone knows what they do. But with this levy, it's become a headache for most of the members. It was slapped on the mining industry. And the mining sector now, we do have different categories of companies with different levels of production and revenue. So when you look at those in the bauxite sector, they don't produce any gold and their prices haven't shot up. So applying that thing to them actually affects their business. And some of their companies also have revenue challenges. And so we are in discussion with the government to see how we can help government attain its revenue objective, but still keep the mining companies. Is it the case that you feel you're not responsible for perhaps the damages going on in the environment? And, well, all of these issues about distraction to the environment, sustainability issues should be left to the small-scale mining sector, which is largely responsible for what we're seeing today? Of course, you know, no, mining companies do not work in river bodies. Large-scale mines do not do alluvial mining in river bodies. Large-scale mines are not the ones cutting down the forests that we see. So when you talk of environmental degradation, I mean, every development activity will impact the environment. But what are your mitigation measures? Even to make an omelette, you need to break the egg. But if you break the egg and make an omelette, you are going to benefit from it. So for large-scale mines, they have even bonds that they put aside for the environmental impact. So if you talk about damage to river bodies, to water bodies, to the forest there, then you're not talking about large-scale mines. Will history bear you out on this? Look at communities such as Obuasi. Clear example of what we're talking about. You have some dues to pay as the large mining sector, right? Because clearly the environmental impacts are telling in such communities. Yes, we know we have dues to pay. That is why we pay our taxes and that's why we are responsible. You know, the development of Obuasi is not left to large-scale mines. I mean, a mine is just a company in a community. We have larger companies in this country, even in Accra here. Are they responsible for the roads? No. But mining companies build roads, they build hospitals, and they contribute to all that. The beauty of Obuasi is a town development problem.
I mean, the towns need to be properly structured for mining companies to feed into it. You can't take the mining company to go to Obuasi and build all the houses for everybody. That will not be possible.
The sense I'm getting is that from your chamber, you seem to have some discomfort, clearly, when the national conversations rage on illegal mining, sustainability, the mining sector, and then you are brought in. You feel you're doing it's all clean and clear from your side?
Not that a discomfort. I mean, you need to understand the sector. You need to appreciate what we're doing. I mean, you take a landlord, for instance, you rent somebody's house and you are paying the rent. I mean, if the landlord needs more from you, there need to be some discussions. But sometimes if you come up and the policies just are thrown at you, I mean, everybody will be nervous about that. I mean, we tend to contribute to development. We try to use money as a catalyst for development.
In fact, the Center for Democratic Development is asking for more. So if you're saying you're not paying more, then people ask...
More of what?
Taxes then.
Yeah, so then let's discuss it. Let's look at the books. If corporate tax is 35% in this country. So if you make revenue, 35% goes to government. What more do you want? There's royalty, there's all that. So sometimes the perception is that mining companies are not paying enough. But then when you study very well, realize that they are paying enough and they are even paying more than enough.
If government decides to declare a state of emergency and shut down all mines across the country, would you love that idea?
Would you?
I'm asking you because that's your
if mining should stop right now, if mining should stop in this country, like I said, we're going to lose a lot of foreign.
Clearly, you're not happy. So you have a role to play then.
We are playing that role very well. We are playing. If you look at the taxes that we pay, look, even employment. Yeah. If you go to any mining company, most of the labor comes from the community, local employment. In Newmont, about 42% of the employment comes from the community. In Gold Fields and other places, there's over 60% are local employment. But for the mines, these employments will not come. In terms of revenue that we generate for the state as well. But for the mines, these revenues will not come. If you want more, it can be discussed. You can look at it. There are so many ways of getting more from mining rather than just the rent.
For you, what should be that ideal threshold that government should be considering now? If it's not 3% for sustainable levy, 35% for corporate tax, what should be that ideal figure that you're thinking of as a group or a chamber?
I mean, it's based on discussions. So what does government want? How does you want to position the mining industry? Should it just be a levy? Should it be an alternate kind of employment? What is it? If it's just levy, then just take money up front. Is that all we need? We need to look at how mining can spawn other industries. Look at the value chain, the integration of money into the value chain. The companies that depend on the mining companies. For instance, we have about 70 or 80 support companies in the mining sector. They all pay taxes. They all pay all the PAYs that they pay. But for mining, they will not be there. So if you look at mining as a whole, then you need to look beyond just the revenue or the royalties that you get. The rents are high enough. According to IMF, I mean, total mining rents that come to government is between 50 to 60%. So government gets all that. So if government wants more, can be looked at. But sometimes we are maybe...
So clearly you don't have a figure?
No, I mean, I'm not the state. I'm telling that mining companies obey the country's laws. And whatever government puts up there, it is discussed, and then you see how you can manage it.
Let me tell you about some of the sentiments on the streets, and basing this on the CDD 2023 Ford Foundation report, which they did on royalties. The clear feeling, and I'm just summarizing that, is that royalties and the benefits thereof from mining, which you are involved in, does not get to the communities as they deserve. Partly why we're having a number of menaces, illegal mining, people breaching all of some of your mines. All of these things are part of the challenges that we're facing.
I'm not sure. I mean, royalties, it's not the mining companies that take the royalties to the community. Mining companies pay royalties to the government. So royalties go to the state, and then the state will then disburse the royalties back to the community for community development. The question is, what is done with the royalties that go back to the community? I mean, sometimes you keep saying the quantum is small, and you want it big. What are you using it for? Probably, if we could tie the royalties into specific projects, then we could see that for over 5 years, 10 years, I got 100 cedis from royalties. I've used it to build a school. But if you use the royalties for recurrent expenditure, even for 100 years, we'll find nothing. So we are saying that, look, there should even be a law that will guide the utilization of mineral royalties. So that if government takes a share, what comes back to the community that goes to the district assemblies, they should tie to specific projects. If it's a hospital, if it's a school, then the community can see. But as at the moment, it goes to them, and is used for recurrent expenditure. Nobody knows what royalties are being used for. So that's part of the challenge.
Would you rather want to be directly in charge of paying this to the community and their leadership?
No, community development is a purview of government, and then we would support. That was the mining companies support the schools. There are some of the communities that the hospitals are only the mining hospitals, like roads, electricity. So we will support government, but we cannot take the place of government. So working together with government, we could work and build a Johannesburg that we want. Because Johannesburg wasn't built by mining. There are other people that you can diversify and you can involve them, and all that revenue will come back. If you go to Takwa, I mean, the per capita income in Takwa, I'm sure it's higher than some regions. But why? It's because of mining. If you go to see the number of banks and the people in Takwa, it's all on the back of mining. Maybe there are more people in Takwa in the business than there are in Cape Coast, but Cape Coast is a regional capital. So mining serves as a growth pole. But with growth poles, there have to be deliberate policies. You have to plan with the resources. You don't just take the money and then you blame the one that pays the taxes. Let's also blame the person that is using the taxes. What are you using the taxes for? If you are not using the taxes for development, then it will come back to bite all of us.
Yeah, but the people need more jobs. The people need access to their
we provide jobs over 10,000.
Yeah, it's
employees.
not enough. Else you won't find more and more people.
How many people can Joy FM employ?
Mining activity.
There is a limit. Are you telling me that if we employ the community, there will be no illegal activities? Even in Accra, where there's no mine, there's no illegal activity.
Are you basically telling us that illegal mining cannot immediately come to a halt?
Look, some of the people involved in illegal mining are not because they are broke. And how much an excavator will cost? Do you know? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can see 5, 6 excavators in the pond digging the forest. You think it's the guy there? No, somebody brought it. So is the person broke? No. So let's not think that illegal miners are poor people. They are not all poor. Those who do the mining might be poor, but those who sponsor them are not poor. So let's look at way where we can streamline the small-scale mining sector and tax them properly. Like I said, 40% of Ghana's revenue comes from small-scale mining. What do we do? What taxes do they pay? What royalties do they pay? And all that. So if you put all that together, then maybe we can do something meaningful, but not just blame mining companies for illegal mining. No.
You've seen government's approach over the years, and much more now with the onboarding of river guards, a number of militant activities just to ward off these people who are going into unlicensed or unauthorized areas and acting as they will, all in search for gold. Do you feel that the government response has been enough and that's okay as far as you're concerned?
See, sometimes when the word enough, I mean, how do you measure enough? I think government is trying, but it takes a lot of stakeholders to get involved. I mean, government cannot keep the military and the police there all the time. Even large-scale mines concessions have been trespassed on. For instance, a large-scale mine will blast and then people will go into the pit and collect all the stones and start running helter-skelter with them. We are all affected. There should be stakeholder engagement. Communities, chiefs, everybody should come on board so that those who want to do it responsibly, you carve areas for them, you do exploration for them, and then you can keep them and measure them. And those who just want to do the thing wrongly, illegally, then the law has to deal with them. So a carrot and stick activity. So those who want to do it properly,
register. Stick them more now because the impact is all over.
But that's up to government. I mean, the mining companies don't have the stick anymore. It's the government that has the stick, and the state that has the stick. So maybe the stick should use the stick, and
I also tell you about
the bigger the stick, maybe the better.
You seem to be shelving all of this.
I am not
shelving all of them to either the illegal miners, small-scale miners, or the government. But how about the large sector? I'll tell you about the example from Obuasi, for instance, where the shooting incident occurred. I recall discussing that with the regional minister. Clearly, these indigenes say that just do away with some of your old mines. Let's go in there and mine because it's safe.
The Obuasi gave 70% of their concession back to the community. About 3-4 years ago, I must say, the mine did a redevelopment, and they kept 30% and gave out 70%.
Yeah, of a place that you have, mined.
No, you see, mining must be preceded by exploration. So you do exploration, and you make a find, and you know that there's minerals there. That's why. So most of those places had exploration licenses, which were given back to government to be shared among the communities. Definitely, other people will come in and say, we also want our share. So how long can you give? Unless we want to say that, look, let's take away the mining companies and give it to individuals. If that's what we want to say, we can say that. But when somebody has invested, like a company is investing about $1 billion in a project, now after investing that money, everybody says that's where I want. That's where I want to be. If it were you, would that work? No. So let's find jobs for those who want to do it properly. But But those who really want to
but it's not jobs that your people are providing to these people afterwards. What we see is that there are cases of extrajudicial killings. Sometimes the security agencies or the internal security arrangements of these companies tend to shoot indigents. You know, people have died as a result of this.
But mining employees have also died as a result of people invading. But mining companies are not the ones holding the arms. Because, look, mining companies are invested. That state has allowed us to invest. So definitely the state has to protect investment. I'm sure Joy FM, if you had an invasion of people, you will call the police. And if the police come and the people are still coming, they have to use force to stop them. We are not saying that people must be killed or not. But then people have to obey the law.
A reason why you would shoot someone who goes into an old mine, and
no, I mean,
a decommissioned mine, a mine that you're not necessarily
interested in. That is not a fact. Which old mine? Who decommissioned mine?
If a mine is decommissioned, just for indigents to go there.
No, if a mine is decommissioned, then it's decommissioned, given back to government. A decommissioned mine will be returned to government. So no mining company will be at a decommissioned mine. It is like I'm saying that after you have delineated the reserves that you are working on, people invade the concession. And when they come onto where you operate, you invite the state to protect you. So that is where some of those clashes do happen. Sometimes people see the police, they see the military, and they still come, and sometimes like the military gave a report of what happened. You and I were not there, but they gave a report. So in cases like that, I mean, what happens? It's unfortunate that those things do happen. But we have to also, like you said, the stake must be applied sometimes, so that if there's the stake and there's dialogue, I mean, mining companies are willing to live hand in hand with communities. Yes, you are going to work there for 10 years or 20 years. You would not like to be a hostile investor. We are also vulnerable to all these attacks, and we wish that it will stop. For instance, there's a place in Asanko, Tontokro, that a mining company has delineated, spent over $20 or so million to do exploration, is ready to mine. Then you have an influx of people. You say indigenous, some of them are not even Ghanaians. Foreigners coming from all over.
Oh, really?
Of course, and they take over the concession of that mine, and it's waiting for them to leave. They are not leaving. One person is arrested, and everybody is masked up, and there's a demonstration going on. I mean, what signal does it give to investors? If you want investors to come in, then we should be able to provide some kind of protection. If communities want places to mine, mining companies are willing to work with government and see which areas they can seed off. When you seed off, it means you give to government, and government will then do the allocation of that concession. Because as a company, you cannot just take your mine or part of your concession and give to anybody. It's against the law. You have to return to the Minerals Commission, who will then give to communities to mine. And companies have talked to government. Some have already seeded. The thing is that once you seed a small quarter, then the next time 100 people, you give them, and 1,000 people, and then you keep giving. How long can you
feel everything will be gone?
Of course. And what about your investment? Are you going to be compensated for the investment that you have made? Because you have to do exploration. And sometimes you can spend up to 10 years just doing exploration to delineate the reserves that you mine.
Don't you feel that
we are also vulnerable? We need support.
Indeed, and I agree with you on that, because you appear to be paying the political price for it. Yeah. Now you find governments adopting quite if I may use the word loosely, intolerant posture towards the whole or general concept of mining. You have the development with the Daman mining fields for I believe, one of the gold firms, which is clearly now being rejected by government. They've made their minds up that, well, we're not giving this back to the company. You've heard about that case, for instance. Don't you feel that that's perhaps the snowball effect, if you want to call it, of government's increasing crackdown on illegal mining, and perhaps the general sentiment that you have from Ghanaians who are just not happy about what mining is bringing?
But that mine is not an illegal mine.
Right.
So it's a licensed mine. But you see, government prerogative to give a land to company.
Yeah.
Government has the right to take back, but follow due process. I mean, if you want to take back, like they've applied, it's being rejected. We were just thinking that maybe government would have provided some kind of counter, say, look, this is what you want, but this is what we want.
Yeah.
So go about it this way, and then let's work together. But government decided like they will take it. That's fine, up to government to do. But you see, there are a lot of other investors looking at the scenario. So we are still talking with government to see how we can assure the investors that Ghana is not a country that's going to take people's investment from them. But then you have to dialogue, you have to discuss. So basically, that's what I'm saying.
Investor confidence is key. And of course, looking at the environment we have now, you're obviously watching to see if what approach the government is taking. But they've indeed initiated some key policy reforms that would inform perhaps your own projections and what investors should be doing or not. Take a look at the gold board approach, which is coming on board now. It's targeted, as some would say, much more towards the small-scale sector, but it will obviously have an impact on your activities, isn't it?
No, it's for the small-scale mining sector. So whatever they produce, the gold board will take over and then work with it. It's targeted at a small-scale sector. But we support that because gold is gold, and it will provide more foreign exchange for Ghana and provide a better name for the country. Like I said, 40% comes from the small-scale mine. So government captures this alone in addition to what the large-scale mine is producing. Then we
Don't you fear that gradually we're getting to that stage where government is just planning some pseudo-nationalization of either mines or mining activities and all of that? And that's why I was putting the question earlier to you.
No, I don't think so, but we'll engage government to see, is that government's policy? If that's government policy to nationalize, then you need to tell the investor that, look, we want to nationalize our mines. You discuss it. If people are interested in staying, they will stay. If they want to leave, then they'll leave.
What do you think about such a proposal?
Government has not said,
they haven't told you, but
they haven't told anybody. Here. They haven't told anybody. So this is a one-off situation with a particular mine whose lease was up for a newer that was rejected. So that is what we'll take it for now. We haven't heard from government saying they want to nationalize the mine. But like I told you, we nationalized our mines before. The mere fact that the Ghanaians take over a mine does not necessarily mean that the mine will produce more than it was producing. But the perception is there. So we hope that whatever it is will be for the good of the country.
The signs are on the wall. Gold for oil started with the previous administration. This government came through with gold board. The fiscal space is closing extremely for a country such as Ghana. So, yeah, if you can't have the cash, then you can have the gold. It's as simple as that. Don't you fear that's where we're getting to? And will that be counterproductive in your view?
That is a fear. But you see...
So it's a reality that you have that fear?
Of course. Of course. I mean, if somebody... There's a proverb that said, what? If your friend's beard is on fire, you put water by yours. So it's happened to one company. That's why we are talking to government, to get the assurance. Is this something that government is going to do? Or is this just this particular one is peculiar to this one? So we'll still engage government on that. But like I said, nationalization hasn't worked. It doesn't work anywhere because there are a lot of factors involved. And we also go out there and invite investors. So if you nationalize this one, then who is going to come in and say, hey, if I go to Ghana, will my investment be taken away from me? That perception is also real. And if you don't take time, it will take us to the old days where there will be no reinvestment in this. Look, capital investment in mining is huge. You want to spend $1 billion and a half to build a mine. I mean, they are getting the money from all kinds of places. Can you imagine if government decide not to renew their lease? What will happen? Will somebody else come in? No. So I think that government hasn't said that, but we think that it would be very dangerous to go that way. But whatever it is, up for discussion. On
this specific one, do you intend to engage the government on this? Or have you either been provided with some clarity?
The Damai one?
Yes, on why that...
Yes, government issued a statement saying that they want to take over... And,
just a statement, that's all you have.
And then have Ghanaians run it. And yeah, I mean, that's what they want to do. Like I said, government owns the resources. If they want to do it, and they do it according to due process, according to contracts that have been signed, why not? Everybody wants certainty and predictability in the laws. Once it is there, you will see that you have a stable investment climate.
Well, I don't want to be the devil's advocate, but look at what's happening within the sub-region, West Africa, and the developments. And you can clearly see that even our neighbors up north, I don't want to mention, well, you're out with their name.
Yeah.
These people are taking that trend. People, the motivation, the appetite by central governments to take over then may grow.
Yeah, Ghana is a democracy. So if you're a democracy, we know that you have rules and regulations. And then we go there and invite people. If that's what they want to do and they advertise that this is what we do, people also want to come in, they'll come in. But, I mean, like I said, what you are doing at the beginning, it looks good. Because, look, if the food is cooked, right, and you are taking over, it's easy than to go and start cooking. So probably, we don't know, this is the beginning. Let's wait and see. But nationalization hasn't helped us in the past. I don't think it's something that will help us in the future. And I don't think government is even considering that. Mining companies, we work with government, whatever the policies are discussed, we agree, we obey all the rules. In terms of ESG, we obey all the rules that we have to obey in the country.
We'll talk about allies LI 2462. I hope I got the numbers right, which has got to do with matters relating to mining and forest reserves.
Yeah.
But just one more trend on external examples and what's been happening around the world. You take a look at South Africa, because you're talking about Joburg and it's and how appreciably fanciful the city is, isn't it? You compare that to Ghana, which is the highest producer of gold.
Yeah.
But
Ghana,
that's not...
the revenue comes to the center.
Yeah.
So if you look at Accra, the development of Accra, I can tell it's on the back of minerals. It's on the back of gold. The revenue from the mines come back to the center. So they are in the center. 80% is kept by the center. So that 80% that is distributed all over the country. So mining revenue comes to the center. And is the center supposed to use the revenue? How does the center use the revenue? To do roads, to build hospitals, to provide other infrastructure. So that's how we spend our money. We might not build skyscrapers like Johannesburg, but then we'll provide resources and revenue for government to catalyze development all over the country.
All you've told me over the last 30 minutes is that it's your government's problem, not our problem.
It is not, I didn't say it's the government's problem.
Well, I mean,
I'm just saying that
yeah.
it is a development problem. We are a developing country. We do need a lot of development, but then we need...
But the taxes are going to the government. That's what you're telling me.
But you and I know the taxes go to the government. You pay taxes. Sometimes when you are driving on a bad road, you say, what happens to my taxes?
But...
The taxes go, it's not a mining company.
You have all the cash. I think that's the feeling.
We don't have the cash. You are working, you have cash, you have revenue, and then you have what? Expenditure. So definitely, you invest in something, you pay whatever cost, and then there's the revenue, and the revenue is shared according to a formula. So whatever I do with my revenue and what you do with the revenue are two different things. We are not blaming government or for anything, but we're saying that let's look at other ways where we can, also mining companies can help, rather than just the perception that they are not paying enough, they're not paying enough. So are you saying that if mining companies should give all their revenue, everything, 100% to government, there will be no unemployment? There will be no illegal mining? Is that what we are saying? So that's the question we need to ask. Otherwise, we will then kill the hen that's laying the golden egg. Because we want the egg in the stomach before that we kill the hen. Instead of allowing the hen to lay the egg for us to use the egg to do an omelette, we are interested in the egg in the stomach. So we take over the hen, put in the... It doesn't work that way.
Well, my analogy would be that government is perhaps stealing some of the hens from you and laying the eggs now through the gold board.
That's the analogy.
And tell me what you think about it. Are they not going to run you out of business, quote and unquote, if I should, put it that way? Yes, gold is in demand, but if the central government now will be taking almost 40%, right, of the production, because then at the end point of the sale or exports, all these small-scale miners will not be able to do anything else in terms of sales, except for their local market.
Yeah.
So government is going to be competing with you at the international market?
No. I mean, there's no competition with gold in the international market. I mean, gold is, everybody sells the gold, and the price is fixed in the international market. So there's no competition. No matter the quantity of gold that you produce, there's always a market. It's not like, oh, the market is glut. No. Gold is sold by everybody. So small-scale mines will sell theirs, large-scale mines will sell theirs, but the revenue comes back to the state, and then it is shared. The state has a share. Some go back to the communities, and then we need to plan how to use those revenues for development.
At least domestically, all foreigners will be out, will be exiting the local trading market for gold, which means that, well, I'm not saying your chamber is full of very scrupulous people, but the small-scale miners may have the appetite of perhaps underhand dealings and trying to offload some of their gold to the large-scale companies.
That's not possible.
Okay,
large-scale mining.
Educate us on this, because that's another thing.
Because when you take the ore and you process through the plant, it goes through smelting into the gold room. Right. And the gold room, like you see your screen, is where the gold is poured. And it is poured there, it is graded, it is measured, it is counted. And then when you are shipping, there's always a customs person in the room. There's assaying.
That's just the customs.
There's assaying. There are people from the gold board, PMMC, previously, will also be in the room. So they all certify that this is the number of bars that is leaving this gold room at this particular point in time. It comes back, it comes to the airport. Before it is sent out, it is checked.
You're telling you're telling me the ideal situation. That's all you're telling me.
That's what it is. You can't buy. It's not like you are selling water on the road and go and buy. No, you can't do that.
We've seen that. I mean, there are reports replete about illegal exports of gold. People are taking. I mean, you know that happens in the
reports. The reports say who are doing the illegal exports. That's what they said. Who are doing the illegal exports?
When it's about the bad stuff, your people are not involved.
Because our people are audited and they are measured. So once we know they are audited, we know that, look, government itself is in the room and they audit what they do. So at least we can say that they are not the bad people. Unless, of course, somebody can prove otherwise. I mean, I'm not God. Yeah. Somebody can prove otherwise. Otherwise,
so the possibilities,
allegations that always allegations.
The local market. Once you have the foreigners exiting, now the appetite will be clear for small-scale miners to then offload some of their gold.
They can't offload to large-scale mines. That's what I'm saying. The process is that how are you going to get the gold from the small-scale mine into the gold room? You can't do that. It's not possible to mix gold from small-scale miners. It's not. It's total. So I'm educating you today. I hope that in future you will still not have that perception. Unless you doubt it, we can take you to a gold room to have a look at how the process is. You can't do that.
We've had the refrain, it is possible, isn't it? Anyway, possibilities, isn't it? Okay, yes. So now you have the central bank then carrying out its domestic buying scheme. Of course, they started at somewhere late last year. You've been part of the process, I believe, or not?
Yes.
Yes. What do you think the central bank should now be adopting in terms of its policy structure?
Excuse me, I'm not a banker. I can't work for the central bank.
But you'd love to sell more to the...
No, you see, when they say the gold, it's not that they give the gold. Gold that is taken from the dory has to go to the refineries.
Right.
You understand? So that is where everything, the central bank will take their portion, whether it's gold they want, or from there. So it's not like you come to Accra, you take 2 pieces, go to a central bank, sell.
Yeah.
No, you don't do that. Because it's a very regulated procedure from the gold room to the refinery. Then after it has been refined and all the data taken, that is where all these come in. Whether they are taking their royalties in gold or you sell and return the money to the central bank, that is where it is done. It's not at the gold room locally here that you do those things. But we do sell. If the central bank approach mining companies to do that, and they were willing to sell. After all, gold price is gold price. Whether you sell to a central bank or you sell on the bullion market, it's gold price. And companies did that a lot just to help shore up the economy.
The gold for oil policy may be discontinued. Will that ease a lot more pressure that has been on you to at least supply more gold to the central?
Like I said, the gold goes out there. So anybody wants to buy, you can buy. There's no much pressure selling at that to the Bank of Ghana or anything. I mean, you have it at the refinery. So at that level, those discussions are taken.
You want more investors, obviously, in the sector. And as we speak now, government is carrying out a number of reforms in the sector. But for you, how can we engender that trust in the sector, as you're saying, to try and get more and more companies on board? Do you have some in the offing, and do you feel that there are some policy measures that we ought to take just to accommodate them?
Yeah, so I mean, like predictability and frankness and transparency. I mean, whatever government wants to do, government owns the resource. Once it puts out whatever it plans, mining companies are willing to discuss and adjust accordingly. Because mining is a catalyst for development. So if it is properly discussed in an open, transparent manner, why not? So if government has a policy that they feel that can make the mining sector contribute better to the economy, mining companies are open for those discussions. We can't say, no, don't bring anything. I mean, when the laws are changed, you are in the country, you have to obey the law. But if the law affects you, then how you can say, look, maybe there are alternatives. What can we do about that? So for us, we are a responsible sector, and then we pride our responsibility and the fact that we contribute to development.
Okay, sustainability then, and the forest reserves. I was just talking about the LI 2462 and how there's a whole national push, especially from civil society, asking government to reform how we do mining in forest reserve areas and all of that. Have you taken notice of the discourse? But what's the position you have on going closer to forest reserves, water bodies, and all of that?
So in other places, they mine in sensitive areas. So it depends on what conditions you put in place. So how I understand the LI was, for instance, if you are given a concession to mine a mineral that is in a forest reserve, these are the conditions you should follow. One was that where the mineral is within the reserve, that is where you can go and disturb. But everything else, your washing plant, your accommodation, should be outside the reserve. That is the condition. So that's what it was meant to cure. So that if government decides today that, look, we want to mine the Etiwa forest because the bauxite is there and it is important for our national survival. But Etiwa is also an ecologically sensitive area. The laws that will apply to that place will be different from the laws that will apply in an off-reserve area. So basically, that is what the LI was supposed to do. But there's been a lot of misunderstanding as if it is the LI that is allowing people to do the forest, mining in the forest. No. The LI is saying that if you, as an investor or a Ghanaian, provides a site plan, you go to a minerals commission, and government sees that, look, that mineral, supposing it is uranium, it is important for our economy, it's good for us to mine, but it's in the forest reserve. They will give you, in addition to the normal, they will give you another one that's more stringent. That will say that, look, disturb only the area and keep all the forest intact. Then you can reclaim. So don't build your plant and your accommodation and those in the forest reserve. Don't cut the forest only for those things.
So a targeted approach, sort of.
That's it. So that once that thing is applied to you, you have a target. But in the off-reserve, people can build their houses all over. But in a reserve, a forest reserve, the mining is particularly targeted. That is what there was one part about saying president has the right. But the Constitution already allows the president the right to give us a concession. So that, but you see, when the argument is like that, sometimes anything you say, people will misconstrue. But
should
my understanding
the entire
is that
legislation go, or are you okay with the amendments taking place?
you see, that is up to us of Ghanaians to say. Look, I've explained that this is what it's supposed to do. If we say there should be no mining in the forest, then that legislation is unnecessary. You get me? So whether it goes or stays, the first thing is that, are we going to allow somebody to mine in the forest responsibly? Because we do need that resource. Then if so, you apply the LI. That will tell you that dig only your pit or where you scoop, everything else outside the reserve. And then you have some bonding, you have to replant and reclaim. Those are the conditions that were supposed to be in that LI. But people said the LI is allowing people to mine. No, it wasn't the LI itself. But what around the argument, well.
How then do you react to, how civil society has been treating this conversation around illegal mining all throughout, feeding into the LI on forest reserves and all of that? Do you feel that emotions and sentiments are beginning to set in as opposed to perhaps some of the technicalities that you're explaining? Because if you tell someone that in Ghana here we can do that targeted approach, they'll be skeptical about it because of the...
We have 2 large-scale mines in the forest reserve. They've been mining the forest reserve for a long time. You've never heard anything like that before. You see, until people started going to the reserve by themselves, anywhere they find no permits and they are doing it. That's where the challenge is. For the large-scale mines in the reserve, those are targeted. And they have been there for a very long time.
And these mines are specific?
Yeah, like Newmont Achim. It's in the forest reserve. You've never heard them do anything. So the area that they demarcate is where they do the mining. But then there are also other ways to revegetate. And also they are giving land swap. You are allowed to go off reserve to plant trees to cover that. So whatever you are doing, you also set aside money to do that. If everybody was doing that, maybe we have got a forest back. But with the illegal miners, they are illegal. So they are not even using the law. They are legal, they're just digging. You have a cocoa farm, they come in, they give you some money, and they start digging. There's a river body, nobody's watching, they put excavators, and they start digging. Those are illegal. Those are not regulated by any law. So I don't think there's a law that's regulating them. No, they are just there. So let's differentiate those who have a permit and who can be regulated from those who are just illegally mining. And then when we do that differentiation and we target them, we can bring some sanity.
Do you feel that the average Ghanaian has the patience to decipher, well, this is the large-scale person, this is the small-scale person? Because as we speak now, a number of groups are lacing their boots to protest. And that will mean, or may mean, more crackdown on mining activities. Eventually, if the LI on mining and forest reserves comes into force because of the political pressure, that could spell doom for your these mines that you're talking about.
No. I mean, the mines, if they are responsible and they are not destroying, then, I mean, the perception is there. Once you agitate and you get the information, that's why I say we have to work with information. As for everybody is bad, it's a general statement. But when you go into the room and you disintegrate or you say, you know, like these people are doing it well, those are not doing well, then those things. Then you can then have a discussion. Otherwise, you lump everybody together, and that's the challenge. Because mining companies are regulated. The Chief Inspector of Mines, the Water Resources Commission, the Environmental Protection Agency, they all regulate. And you pay for all this. So even if you divert a river body, you pay. If you abstract water, you pay. And you are given a permit before you can even abstract water. You are given a permit before you can even say, look, this is coming here. And so large-scale mines pay for all those permits. Some of the small-scale mines as well. Those that we should differentiate, those who are just there by themselves. They are just there by themselves. It's like people building without permits. I mean, they are building without permits. So who is regulating them? Those are the kind of people that I think we should go out and target. But if somebody has a permit and is responsible, we should see how we can make it better if it's going wrong. Otherwise, we'll be putting everybody together and then it will not be good for us.
How do you feel that the central government ought to deal with citizenry agitation now? Because it's growing.
Yeah, I mean, there should be information. I mean, information should be provided. Citizens have a right to agitate because they feel something is going bad. But if the information is provided, definitely people are discerning. And then they'll say, okay, this is what it is. This is what it is not. So I think more information, as I'm saying, and as the Minerals Commission is involved, Forestry Commission is involved. If there's information to differentiate that, these ones, they don't have permits. Maybe this one we gave a permit. It is not following the permit conditions. You can close it down. But those without the permits, like for instance, those on the Kumasi Road or Boasi Road, most of them don't have permits. And they are community people. Sometimes nobody wants to go and...
and not entirely community people, as you're saying, because some of the devices they're using, machinery, is quite expensive. So let's talk about the foreigners then.
Yes.
Are you shy of mentioning some of the countries?
Oh, I know a lot of foreigners. We know Burkinabes, Malians, Guineans, Chinese, Russians, all of them in the illegal mining sector. There's some of them there. So that's why immigration should be part of the issue. I recently heard the minister said we were going to deport some of them. I love wearing arms. I don't know the good and bad of that. But there are lots of people who are doing those things who are not Ghanaian, who are not from Ghana. So it's not all the time that is the community that is agitating for them. There are other people who are vested interest in the illegal mining. They profit from the chaos. And those are the people who are sometimes championing. And some of them are Ghanaians. It's not all of them that are foreigners. Even the foreigner will come on the back of a Ghanaian. For instance, your father has a cocoa farm, and then you go out there and invite somebody and say, look, my father is old, the cocoa farm is there. The person says, I have an excavator, then let's go. Then you go and start digging. That's an illegal mine. What is what? That's the Ghanaian is complicit. So whether you're a foreigner, whether you're a Ghanaian, if you're involved in illegal mining, the law should deal with you.
Should we be extraditing them or jailing them? Because if anyone trespasses on any of your, the mines of any of your members of your chamber, you would obviously ask for their arrest.
We will invite the state to deal with them.
No, but clearly, you know what you tell the police, just get these guys.
The state will decide what to do with them. I mean, when the state arrests them, they will decide what to do with them. Should they jail them? Should they extradite them or extradite them or whatever? That is up to the state. For us, so far as the person has trespassed, he's broken the law, we call law enforcement, they take over.
You don't just call them, you call for the arrest.
No, you call law enforcement and say, there's somebody trespassing on my property. Yeah. So the person comes and it's true, will be arrested.
Probably you're being diplomatic on this one.
I come into your room, you are not there, you see me in your bedroom, you call the police.
Yeah, to do what? To arrest?
You call the police that there's somebody in my room. But I cannot instruct the police arrest A or B. It's only the judges
but if someone's trespassing your mining concession, obviously...
You invite the police.
To do what?
To come and take control and protect you.
Take control by arresting?
Yes. Maybe if that's what they have to do, that's their job. They will determine when arrest is possible.
Probably
and when
you're just finding a very nice way of evading that critical question about you conceding that there are foreigners involved, and yet you don't want them to be
No, I'm saying that sometimes they can be arrested. Yeah. Sometimes they can just be asked to leave. It's not all the time that they arrest people. The police can come and say, look, leave the area.
Right.
So they've come in, they've done their job. Sometimes they come and they will arrest. So I can't just call the police, arrest somebody. I mean, there has to be a crime in place. If the police determine that it's criminal in nature, they will determine how to apply the law. So it's not me. But definitely, if they are trespassing and it's against the law, the police know the law on trespassing. They will apply it. If it means arrest, they can arrest, they will arrest. If it means, for peace sake, let's just discuss with them and tell them to move away. Sometimes, for social licenses, you say, look, we don't want any, they haven't destroyed anything, we don't want any problem, go. But some of them come with arms, and they come and they attack the police. Definitely the police will not allow you, or the military will not allow you to overpower him. Right. We will get back to you.
Before we wrap up, I'll be asking you about perhaps some of the programs you have in place just to support government's, cause against illegal mining. But before that, the issue about giving back, or, just on that goodwill note, giving some concessions to indigents or members of the community to mine. Are you expanding that scheme? What plans do some of these companies have? Is this something that they're willing to do, knowing that there's a lot of pressure, agitation growing up in the last few days?
So those are things, those are discussions that we have with the Minerals Commission. Yeah. Because they know your mine plan, they know they know your life of mine, they know the areas you go. So if there are areas that are far away from you, you don't need, they would know. It will come to, okay, then give this back. So it's a discussion. Yeah. And on a case-by-case basis, you can give back to Minerals Commission. It's the Minerals Commission that you cede to, not the small-scale miner. You give it back to them, and they will then put their own regulations around that and determine who to give it to. Yeah.
Which of the regions do you have most of your members being harassed?
All over. Everywhere. Ashanti region, Western region, Afo, even in the Upper East region. So wherever there are mines, you have people come in. Some are peaceful, they just come in and go. Others come and try to even go into the gold room.
Is that bad?
Yeah, sometimes there are people come with guns, marks, and they want to have access to the gold room. So if there's security there, they will not allow you to go. And because the mine security, they are not armed, by law, they can't carry weapons. That is why we invite the state security. And I think the state has, has an obligation to protect investment. Like I say, Joy FM, if you got an armed bandit here, you invite the police.
Should we revise that and have your internal security carry arms at least?
I don't know about that. I mean, there are pros and cons to that. So it's up to the state to determine whether we can.
I see why you're the chief executive officer. You're so refined and diplomatic on these matters. I see.
No, transparency is our
indeed.
What we don't know, we don't want to guess.
Yeah, just
we say what we know. But if you have many thoughts otherwise, why not?
Okay. Your next phase programs and what you project to do in support of government's fight against illegal mining. Do you have some programs as a chamber to support the government?
Yes, I mean, in terms of support, we do provide advocacy. We work with the Small Scale Miners Association, the licensed one, and we talk about trying to transform them and helping them in their procedures and training them in health and safety. So we do all that. And where we are supposed to provide funding for some training, we do provide funding. So we are pro-legal mining, whether you are small or you are big. What we are against, and everybody's against, is those illegal ones. So we are open, and we work with government, we work with all stakeholders to make sure that mining is done legally and in a responsible manner, because mining as a catalyst for development cannot be debated.
In a few seconds, do you have any message for the people of Ghana?
Life without mining is impossible. Right. Because if mining should stop, everything in this room will disappear. All your metals, everything comes from mining. So mining is very key. Right. But then we need to be structured and then have a predictable regime. Transparency is the name of the game. So once we are transparent and working together, we can continue to use mining as a catalyst for development. So the perception, the negative thought are all there. But then there's information that we can find that will tell us what is true and what is not.
We need a solution to this. Ahmed Dasana Natogma, thank you so much for being my guest on UpFront. Friendly conversation. We'll have this again. Grateful for your time. He's the acting CEO for the Ghana Chamber of Mines and Blessed Uganda. Of course, we'll see you again. This has been UpFront. Until then, log on to myjoyonline.com. Many more stories there for you. Thank you for your time.